Hello and welcome to Horseplayer Happy Hour. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatow, coming to you from the Little House on the East Side. And we've got some bonus coverage. We don't usually get to show Saratoga's sixth race. It's usually done and dusted by the time we come on. But because we can show it, we're going to. And I think there's an interesting point about, we'll see how it turns out on the track, but a little theory I have about preferring horses in maiden races at this meet in particular, who have a race under their belt, and with that race being on the dirt. It feels to me like when you had a race over the dirt, because it's a deep and tiring surface, you move up. That's why I landed on the Forerunner in this spot. We'll see how it plays out on the track in a minute. We do not have a co-host for the entire program today. We've got instead a series of co-hosts, some of whom will be coming in by the magic of video. But as this race breaks from the gate at Saratoga, we will welcome in our first guest, who you know from NBC Sports, as well as many other places. He is Randy Moss. Randy, how are things?
Hey, Pete, doing well. Your horse there, the co-favorite right now, is on the lead. Recognize he's making his third lifetime start. You pointed out, first time on the turf. He's by that fashionable new stud, Bolt Doro. And you've got the Mott factor here, of course, as his horses tend to get better with a race or two under their belts. But the co-favorite is the 8 horse. If we can pick him out, he's a first-time starter back in the pack right now. Orange Freeze, the Mataket stable, the owner, and Christophe Clement is the trainer. That's the gray there next to last as the picture freezes for a second.
We've seen this, the inner turf stats with the Clement and Rosario runners have been off the charts this meet. It's been so interesting to follow some of the riders this meet so far who've had a big name riders who you can produce a flat bet profit on, including Rosario and Luis Saez. And the top of all of them is Javier Castellano, thanks to David Aragona at Horse to Watch for tweeting out that table as they're turning in here at Saratoga. Is my horse going to find anything, Randy? What do you think?
Well, this is a pretty weak field of New York breds, Pete, and he said he set the pace so far, and it looks like the Clement horse on the outside is going to be doing a little too late. So I'd go stand in line right now if I were you.
Excellent. We got one winner on the show. You know, when we have 6 races on the show, it's pretty easy to get a winner. At least, you know, you'd like to see 2 or 3. When you only have 2 races, the pressure's on. So we'll take it as recognized. Cruz is home. Now, that's something I've noticed, and we saw it in the other maiden race again today, too, that even these highly touted first-time starters, a horse with a race over the track, even a race that looks kind of meh, they seem to be overperforming a little bit. And I think there might be something to this fitness angle that I'm going to try to use for the last few weeks of this meet, and then also going forward at Belmont. How's your Saratoga been so far?
It's been going okay. To your point, I mean, as Lucy gets on the couch behind me there,
we love animal interruptions.
She likes to be part of podcasts. I think the fitness angle that you talked about, the benefit of a race over the track, is even more important at Saratoga at this meet, because the racetrack surface is a bit more demanding at Saratoga than, you know, in recent memory. I mean, John Velasquez was telling us the last time I was there for the Whitney and Mott was saying the same thing, that he can't remember a Saratoga meeting in which the main track has been deeper. So it certainly has benefited horses, I think, to get a race or two over the track and sort of build up that fitness level a little bit.
The poster child for me might be Chocolate Gelato, the Todd Pletcher 2-year-old filly who they had been talked about before her debut, as if you don't need to run the juvenile fillies dirt race. You can just give it to this one. Her stablemate Prank, among others, might have something to say about this, but very meh-looking debut, but definitely looked like the fully formed article second out, and that's, you know, not something you always expect from Pletcher. But it's been an interesting meet. I think we're going to still see a lot of really good 2-year-olds making their debuts. The 2-year-old action was light early. It's getting pretty exciting as things go on. You mentioned being up here for the Whitney, winning your in action, covered on NBC for the Breeders' Cup. What will you be back? I presume you'll make one more trip up here.
Yeah, we're making one more trip, Pete. We will be there for closing weekend. We're closing Saturday for the Jockey Club Gold Cup, as Olympiad gets a chance to restore maybe some of the luster that was tarnished a little bit with his off-the-board performance in the Whitney, with no real excuse other than the competition that he was facing. So I'm not sure exactly what the level of competition will be in the Jockey Club Gold Cup for him. Certainly much less than it was in the Whitney. So we're looking forward to seeing Olympiad sort of get back on track again, maybe toward the Breeders' Cup Classic. We'll see.
Now, I'll apologize in advance by saying I'm a card-carrying member of the Olympiad fan club. I didn't back him that day because I didn't love the situation for him as we start to take this happy hour thing literally here.
Good for you.
On the airways. The last time you were on one of these, I think you had a drink with an umbrella in it. I
had a margarita. No umbrella, but añejo tequila and dry curacao.
Not bad at all. But the excuse I would conjure if I wanted to excuse my old friend Olympiad is it was a particularly weird track that day because the grounds crew got a little bit caught out by that pop-up thunderstorm that came through when the track was open. So they sealed and they harrowed, but it took a good amount of water for 20 minutes. On the bingo card of trainer excuses we've all heard about a cuppy racetrack and all that, truly one of the worst and most unbelievable excuses when you hear it from a trainer. This might be one case where I would accept the idea that he just wasn't feeling it over the track that day. And Bill Mott, obviously, as sharp as they come. If he's coming back on the same track with that horse, I'm thinking he thinks there's a real possibility. I don't see him just throwing up his hands and saying, I don't know, let's try again. I think he must have some reason to believe that there's going to be a different result. Who knows? It might not be as complicated as that, but that's the way I'm going to view it. I have a feeling I'm going to be taking a very positive view of Olympiad going forward.
Well, with the caveat that all the horses ran over the same racetrack and the other ones seemed to handle it better. If you are a card-carrying member of the Olympiad fan club, after the Whitney, you've got two choices. One is to say that I was wrong and he's not as good as I thought he was, or two, it's legitimate that we definitely know that the racetrack surface was funky that day because of exactly the circumstances that you described. So that's not a mirage. That's a fact. How much did it affect him? Who the hell knows? But maybe it did.
As a horse player in this day and age, Olympiad has run well at the highest levels, but there's also no doubt that there is a difference between certain races that might be called grade ones and what you might call grade 1+ races, and horses that by their very presence, like Life is Good, almost elevate a race to that grade 1+ status. It could just be that he's a cut below the tippy top and got horrified as well. Well, it's going to be interesting to see who shows up against him, and that's a race we'll be previewing, obviously, as we get a lot closer and have more of an idea of the composition of the field. One horse I want to get your opinion on, and I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I think one of the stories of racing this summer is going to be the return to the races of Flightline, who has a chance to go to a race like the Breeders' Cup Classic as a heavy favorite, even if Life is Good or whoever else shows up in there, if he continues to show his form and shows he can do it going a little bit longer. How sanguine are you about the prospects of Flightline getting this 10 furlongs for the Pacific Coast Classic? What do you think of him as a horse in general?
I think he's a beast. I think he's head and shoulders the best dirt racehorse in America right now. And heck, if you put him on turf, he might be head and shoulders the best turf racehorse in America. He's just an exceptional athlete who has shown it in every one of his races, really. And I thought the Met Mile was particularly impressive, given that he was thrown a set of circumstances that he'd never really had to navigate before. A bit of a tardy break from the gate. And then Mott's horse took the rail away from him, and then he had to steady a couple times down the back stretch and was a little further back than he was accustomed. It didn't matter. He was just much, much the best against a good bunch of horses. And he did it in racehorse time like he always does. And I don't think 1.25 miles in the Pacific Classic is going to be a deal breaker. But, the thing about horse racing is, and we've said it before, no matter how good a horse is, he's always having to prove himself over and over and over again. There's always the but factor in thoroughbred racing, right? Yeah, he did it last time. He won the Met Mile, but now he's got to go 1.25 miles at Del Mar. And if he wins the 1.25 miles at Del Mar, but now he's got to go to a different track that he's never run on before at Keeneland. It can be a little bit squirrely sometimes. Some horses like it. Some horses, you'll hear that too. So there's always people looking for chinks in the armor of a horse, no matter how good they are.
That's
right?
our job, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of being analysts, in terms of being betters, it's fun to come on and praise them to the hilt, but it always begs the question of what's gonna happen next. How good are they? I will say this: Flightline, who Nick is looking forward to seeing in person at the Pacific Classic. Feel free to pop your comments in. We'll respond to a few of them here in the few minutes left. We have Randy, but he did show that he wasn't just, and this is a cricket term that they use in the UK that I just love. I think we've talked about it before, the flat track bully concept. He showed that he wasn't just one of these horses that had to have everything his own way and couldn't overcome adversity. He has the ability to overcome things, he showed in the Met Mile. And in some ways, I think that was his most impressive race, even if he had to maybe visually work a little bit harder to do it. I'm really excited to see what he can do out there. And I hope it's a big field against him. As you point out, so people are going to have their say, and you'll probably hear, oh, who did he beat type talk. But when you can do what this horse has done on the clock and visually, I'm just not nearly as worried about that last question. If you had a question about him, would the form of the races be one that you might throw up there as another thing of, oh, let's see how he does when he gets against all the good horses in a race like the Breeders' Cup Classic?
If I had, and we all do it. I mean, if I had look, you have to be, when you're a horse player, you have to be sort of a pessimist by nature. You have to purposely look, because you're looking for value. I mean, you have to purposely look for possible chinks in the armor, even if a horse hasn't shown any chinks in his armor yet. Right? That's what we do. We dissect these things to the nth degree and try to spot anything that we can maybe try to use against a horse. Flightline, it's kind of hard to find something, but I suppose your only question mark at this point would be the 1.25 miles. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but if he's 1-10 in the Pacific Classic and people are looking for value, he hasn't proved himself 2-turn, 1.25 miles, the whole, the longer distances. So maybe that might be something that people might use as ammo to try to take a shot against him, and I could understand it.
It is a good point you make about the difference between being a racing fan. A racing fan, all you want to do is celebrate the awesome performances, and then the racing better. And you can see how sometimes, whether it's in social media or even in the real world, you see a little bit of tension of people who are more sport first racing fans, and then those of us who want to say, yeah, let's not compare him to Ghost Zapper just yet. You see that tension play out in a lot of places. And for us in the media, I guess we get to do a little bit of both, right? We got to do a little bit of cheerleading to make it exciting, but at the end of the day, it's a gambling game too.
Yeah, at NBC, we've been criticized occasionally for being maybe a little too sport first, because NBC is going for a broad audience, right? As opposed to a TVG or even Fox Day at the Races, right? When it's almost centered completely around gambling. At NBC, they're looking for the people to try to bring into the sport that, maybe haven't been exposed that much to thoroughbred racing. And you want to try to teach them something or get them interested, get them hooked, whatever. So you do focus a little bit more on the sporting aspect than on the gambling aspect. But we try to weave in a little bit of the gambling too, because we know that our audience doesn't consist 100% of neophytes that don't know anything about horse racing. The majority are people that are watching it for a reason.
And I'll tell you what, you can't help but learn something about racing from a horse player point of view, listening to you and Jerry Bailey and Matt Bernier talking about these races. I mean, there's just the level of specifics that I've learned about riding a race from Jerry on these broadcasts, and then you able to chime in with your history as a high level a player and speed figure maker. It's I think you can. I think personally, I mean, I guess I'm biased, but personally, I think you guys click all the boxes.
Yeah, Jerry and I have worked together now for 16 years. Started obviously at ESPN in 2006, right after he retired from riding, and I was known when I first got into the TV business as a handicapper. That's basically what my calling card was. And there were people who were saying, well, why is ESPN putting him on tees just a handicapper, right? Now that we have handicapping shows on NBC that I don't even do. But, I thought I was hotshot handicapper and fit guy, and I knew all there was to it. Jerry taught me a lot about how to handicap a race just from looking at it from a jockey's perspective, right? And something that I hadn't really thought of that much before. And Jerry tells me that I taught him a lot about handicapping horse races because I look at it more from an analytics perspective, from a data perspective. And we've both sort of mooched things from each other. And it's been a nice symbiotic relationship there in terms of furthering our handicapping expertise together.
16 years, that's longer than a lot of marriages.
Yes. It's longer than a marriage that I've had in the past. Yes. We won't go there, Pete.
I didn't mean to make you have to talk about that, but
my current marriage, though, is 27 years. So.
There you go. Oh, that's very, very funny. Well, that's great stuff, Randy. Thank you so much for coming on. One more comment we'll show before you go. Terry, who speaks for us all when she says, "I love Randy Moss." Where else should we be looking for you in the near term before you get back up here to Saratoga? What else you got coming up?
I'm keeping a low profile, Pete. I'm not overexposed, so you won't. I don't tweet a whole lot, as people who follow me on Twitter know. If something really ticks me off a little bit, if GPS timing, whatever, that got me going for quite a while, as you know, which was a complete quagmire. But you won't see much of me until we get to Saratoga for the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Well, maybe we'll bother you to come on here again, and maybe we can get more canine cameos too.
Anytime.
Randy, thank you so much for your time.
Thumbs up from Lucy.
Out like a light. I've got one asleep on the floor here next to me as well. Muggsy, the handicapping Labrador, not appearing on camera today though. We couldn't pay her enough. But Randy, thank you so much. We'll be talking soon.
Take care, Pete.
Good stuff. Much appreciated from Randy. Always a great opportunity to get to hear him talk about racing and broadcasting and appreciate his time. And that's just one of the 4 special guests we've got going on this show. I didn't prep Craig for this, but it looks like he's ready. Why don't we do a little leaderboard check, Craig? If you're game, we'll see what's going on in this contest. We had I think it was another 149. Oh, let me take this second to issue an apology to everybody who got excited when I said we were going to do a multi-track format this week. The horseplayers.com schedule just did not align at all. Basically, I want races in the 3 to 5 window for this game if we're going to go multi-track. And I want them to be the races that are being used elsewhere on horseplayers.com with the thought that might draw more people into what we're doing here on the Horseplayers Happy Hour Tour. Well, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Today, the early bird games on Horseplayers ended before 3, and the big contest in the later afternoon started at 5. So there were 0 races to choose from. And so I just decided to stick with the all-Saratoga format. I apologize if you were one of the people out there who commented the other week who were very interested in changing things up a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about the concept when we have a minute later, but we'll do this leaderboard and then we'll see how much time we have. And then we'll make a decision about which of our pre-recorded videos we're going to play. And then Michelle, you will be joining us a little bit later in the hour. Looks like we have 12 minutes. So this is going to work out pretty well. We'll do the leaderboard. And then Craig will we'll have our man Matt Bernier join us. So Jake Jacobs from racingflow.com in first place right now at 37:30. I'm very sad. I think I missed him on his annual trip up here. Fred Morgan in second. Dylan Donnelly. Boy, I got so many nice comments, and it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with Dylan and the way he tells his remarkable story when we had him on the podcast. I think it was almost a year ago now. We might be due for another visit with Dylan. Ace handicapper, near NHC Tour winner. Good to see him participating in the Horseplayers Happy Hour Tour. Familiar names in Julie Laboyko and Keith Nodskov there as well. Chris Inman, another name I recognize. Kevin Lux, another Dylan Donnelly entry. David Priz, Becky Mulligan, Howard Johnson, not the restaurateur nor the third baseman, but I've had the pleasure of interacting with Howard as well. Then Thomas Lapadat, a name I don't recognize as much, along with Michael Cavana and Kevin Kilroy, who you know from the Fairgrounds simulcast feed and our airwaves. He did not play all the 4s today. He somehow managed to get an entry in there. Kevin did. with only one of the fours. And then the last one we'll mention, Brendan Snodgrass, currently, I think, in the bubble spot, or at least getting some breakage there in the 15th spot. So good stuff, and appreciate everybody joining us to play in this week's Horseplayers Happy Hour Tour game. And I think we should go ahead and bring in Mr. Bernier, who's traveling around as part of his peregrinations, as you'll hear on the broadcast. He's going to be up at Woodbine for the Queen's Plate. Queen's Plate, not a race, we'll be perfectly honest, not a race that's all that likely to have Breeders' Cup implications, but it is one of the big events of the weekend, and Matt and I, both big fans of Woodbine and Woodbine racing, so we want to take a few minutes to get Matt's early take on Sunday's Queen's Plate. Here that is right now. Next up on the show, very happy to bring in the usual co-host of this program. He has some other important business. In fact, he's going to be heading up to the Great White North to cover Canada's richest race, the $1 million Queen's Plate on Sunday. So we figured we'd bring him in here to talk about it at least, and give me a chance to go get another drink during the live Horseplayer Happy Hour as we record this on Wednesday. As you can see, I am on now the roof of Saratoga Racecourse. Not a bad view. We may have to do an entire show from up here at some point, assuming no security guard comes to roust me, but that'll just make great TV anyway. Anyway, the man I'm bringing in, you know him from his own eponymous podcast. He is TV's Matt Bernier. Matt, how are things?
Good. Sorry for the late change of schedule. Just something came up Thursday. Had to go take care of that. So I'm not live with you, but yeah, looking forward to the weekend, getting up to Toronto some point on Saturday and taking in my first Queen's Plate on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, it's a great day's racing for sure. I mean, really a major social event up there, as well as a great day of racing. We're going to be covering it all over on the In the Money Media Network. We'll be doing a full card look with Ernie Perry and Doug McPherson later in the week. We're going to have Jeff Bratt on and Drew Coatney. We'll be having all kinds of things, but we had to get it with you. Before we get to that, though, I do want to point out, and this is silly because it will have happened long before people see this, but one of these horses in the background, Matt, I don't know if you looked much at Saratoga today, but we have one of those pedigrees that makes you go, in this upcoming fifth race on Wednesday at Saratoga. Miha, this 2-year-old filly by Curlin out of Rachel's Valentina. How cool is that?
Wow. So what, I mean, 3/4 to someone. I know, obviously, we've got Rachel Alexandra way back. You know, that's the grand dam.
Yeah, that's the that would be the second dam.
Yeah.
And yeah,
that's pretty good.
The Curlin Bernardini cross. Anyway, you were watching carefully. Maybe you could pick her out as she gallops behind me here. But that was just a little aside because of the place that we're in. I was very curious to get your take on the Queen's Plate. I've been following these divisions, the 3-year-old colts and the 3-year-old fillies up at Woodbine very closely. Blown away by Moira and her performance in the Woodbine Oaks since that form. Since Frank, with the second place finisher, coming back to win last weekend in the second leg of the Philly Triple Tiara. But at this stage, you've looked at this race a lot more than I am. How deep do you think the quality of this field is?
Well, I think it starts and ends with the top two. You need to really decide what you think of Moira and Rondur, who's going to be sort of the leading light as far as the boys are concerned. If you can see past them, I think you can make a case for arguably the rest of the field. I don't know that there's that much separating, sort of your third, fourth choices from the horses that are going to be the 10th and 11th choices in the race. I think it's a very intriguing running, especially from a tactical standpoint. Rondur showed a bit of a different dimension in the most recent run in the Marine. He was much closer to the pace. Granted, he had Ironstone, who was a little bit of a runoff early on, but that's kind of him in a nutshell. If Rondur has that ability to adapt to the pace and be a little bit closer than he had been in his runs prior, he's going to get the jump on Moira, and that may be the major difference maker, because I've been taken by what this horse has done, Rondur. The last 3 starts have all been fantastic. He's only been allowed to route one time, and I think it was the best race he's run. And from a speed figure standpoint, I believe, I could be wrong, I think Ron Gierkink mentioned it's the fastest buyer earned in a race leading up to the plate in, I don't know, last 10, 15 years.
It's an amazing little matchup there at the top of the market. From a wagering point of view, and I'm asking you this obviously days in advance, so it's a little unfair, are you more interested in trying to split those two at the top of the market, or potentially trying to use them both on top in wagers and get some separation, maybe by finding some longer prices to come run in underneath? What do you think in this far out?
Yeah, so my initial thought when I went through the race was, wow, Duke of Love, I could see him being a little bit of an interesting horse. He had a miserable trip at the top of the lane in the plate trial. He was stuck in behind horses, got bottled up, couldn't really kick on, and then actually did put in a little bit of a run at the very end. But then I saw the morning line. I believe he's 5-1. That to me, for a horse who not only did everybody and their brother see the trip last time out, but he's had a couple of, I don't want to say disappointing performances, disappointing losses in his 2 runs prior to that, but there's a part of me that just start to wonder at a certain price. I don't need to find out that he just isn't quite as good as the top of the top. I think there are other prices in here, though, that maybe at face value, they're not as talented as Moira or Rondour, but they could end up offering a bit of value. The one that I'm most interested in is Chamateur for Sittard. This is a horse that'll be making his second start out for that barn. Tried turf last time out, took on older horses, got a little goofy down the stretch and finished second. On Figs is a little bit light, especially on the buyer standpoint. Timeform US has the horse at least remotely competitive with the top 2. And I think if you're looking for a horse that will rally at the end of it, his only victory to date has come on synthetic, and he's going to be a big price, I could see him getting a piece of this thing. So even if you think it is a little bit formful on top with the top 2, maybe a horse like Chamateur can round out your tries, or if you're playing a superfecta, or maybe even, again, best case scenario can split the big 2. Maybe that's a way to spice up your exotics.
And am I correct in saying Rondour you would give a little bit of preference to over Moira? Maybe we can go head-to-head on that one?
Right now, that's where I'm leaning. We've still got a few days left. I got to take a look at a product still to come through, but I'm just very taken by what this horse has done and showing that new dimension, that new versatility. I love Moira. I thought that move on the far turn was Beholder-esque in that Pacific Classic a number of years ago. But I will say, for all the positives, you have to point out other pieces as well. She had a fast pace to run at that day. She's only got 1 buyer speed figure from her 4 lifetime starts that's above 80, never mind above 90. So you're really putting all your stock, all your regs into the fact that Woodbine Oaks was as electric as it looked on tape. I'm not saying it wasn't, but again, at 5-2 or 2-1 is the favorite. It's a lot of faith in a horse that technically has run that fast one time.
It's very hard to know with these 3-year-olds, right? Whether they're fillies or whether they're colts. So with an older horse, you'd look for regression to the mean after a run like that. But with the 3-year-olds, you can still bake in so much improvement, especially if you think the conditions of the race between the distance and the way it's going to be run are going to suit them. And you could say, why not? They're an improver. Why can't they just keep going on improving? And I think how you answer that question is going to be how you decide what to do with Moira at the end of the day. I'm a card carrying member of the fan club. I've bought the NFT. I'm all in on Moira. But you make some very good points, my friends.
And I think the pace is the other thing that's going to be very interesting in this race, because you're going to have all the same horses that were forwardly placed in the plate trial. You're going to have some other horses that have shown some speed in the past, including Ironstone coming out of that Marine. I'll be very curious to see just how fast they go early on, because then really, and we've seen it in any of the, you think of the Triple Crown races in the United States or any of the races for 3-year-olds at a distance like this, 1.25 miles. You go a little too fast too early, especially if you got some distance questions in your pedigree. That can make all the difference. I have no concern about the distance with Moira. I have no concern about the distance for a horse like Sir for sure. I'm just not sure how good he is at this point. Felt like he was a little bit up and down at the end of that last run that he won. I'm not terribly concerned about it with Rondour, but you look at the Minkster, how far does he really want to go? Although, to be fair, maybe you give him the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what, give him a mulligan. The last race out, maybe the track and the dynamics were against him. Prior to that, he was sort of the bee's knees. He was coming into it with a giant effort in his run 2 starts back. So I think it's a fascinating race. Again, if you can get past the top 2, you're going to get paid. I'm afraid Duke of Love is a little too wise guy for me. He might go off a little too short, but I do think he's going to run better. I don't know. I'm looking for a horse to try to split the big 2.
Before I let you get out of here, tell folks where they can find more of your coverage this weekend of this fantastic Sunday Queen's Plate card, and anything else you want to throw in there.
4:30 to 6 Eastern on TSN in Canada and CTV in Canada. I can't imagine any of that will be available in the U.S., but your guess is as good as mine. And then I may be able to hop on the simulcast in-house feed earlier in the day for a quick chat with Jeff Bratt. That's still TBD if we're going to be able to squeeze that in. But 4:30 to 6 on TSN and CTV in Canada. And I'll have a little write-up over on NBCSportsEdge.com.
Great stuff, Matt. We look forward to seeing you, even if it's just screenshots up there. Woodbine do such a good job. And I'm envious, honestly. Look forward to getting there myself. Hopefully for the Woodbine Mile, maybe they'll have you back, and we can hang out and have a Molson and some P-meal bacon.
Pete, be careful up on the rooftop, man. That's a long way down from there. Be careful.
I'll give you that. Yeah,
That's a long way down.
It's steep. I'm gonna watch this Rachel progeny, and we'll be talking soon.
Sounds good.
Cheers, brother.
See ya.
It was not pretty for the Rachel Alexandra progeny there in that race, with Miha only checking in back half of the field. I galloped out a little bit, but just looked outpaced. We'll see. Back to the drawing board for that one. But yeah, very fun to get Matt on, and that worked out perfectly. It's post time. If you have a quick thought on this race, put it in the comments, and we'll flash it up there. I did want to share Tom's thought before we moved on from the Queen's Plate. He likes Hall of Dreams in there. Had a trip the last day, double-digit morning line. Tom, thank you for putting that one in there. I was uncreative in this race. Who did I like? Let me pull up the right situation here. I thought that number 7, Immortalization, might be the right one as the potential best speed. Got a little bit cooked the last day, going 5.5 in an allowance race. Now back in for a tag today, and on form and figures and expected trip, I think Immortalization could prove very, very tough in here. We'll see if we can make it 2 for 2 in this spot as we get a shot of the boxes at Saratoga, and they're still milling around. So we have a second. So give us some picks here in the comments. Let us know what you went with. You know what we could do really quickly too, Craig. I'm not sure if you have it at the ready, but put the leaderboard back up there, and we can talk about some of the horses that people played. 3-2 getting short enough on my pick, Immortalization, but I'm going to stick with it just because that's who I liked on paper. And sometimes in horse racing, obviously value always needs to be paramount, but sometimes your first thought is your best thought, and you just get yourself into real trouble when you change it. So for me, it would be an Immortalization or pass in this spot as we get ready for them to go into the gate here at Saratoga for this race. Great to hear from Matt. As I said, we're going to have some extra coverage of the Queen's Plate. That should be fun. Going to be doing a little coverage later in the show of the pre-morning. I'm excited about that. We'll get to that, Craig, right after this race. And Mark Kramer had some ideas. I think since we recorded that, they've drawn. So I may have a little bit of an update on the comments that he makes. Also, there's been a win and you're in action from York this week. We'll have a conversation about the incredibly impressive performance from Baid that we saw in that spot. An unlikely Breeders' Cup runner, but I'm sure hoping that we get a chance to see Mishriff, and a horse that I'm a huge fan of. The Woodbine Oaks. No, the York Oaks, the Yorkshire Oaks today winning. You're in action. Alpinista affiliate or a mare now, I think is really cool, and I followed for a number of years. We'll pay attention and see if we think there's any chance of her coming over to contest the Breeders' Cup. And then we've got more. I'm pretty sure the Nunthorpe is tomorrow. More Breeders' Cup win and you're in action in that race. So all right, we are getting ready to pop here. Just waiting for one or two more. Been enjoyable having our man Frank Miramati on the mic at Saratoga the last couple of days. John Imbriel resting up the vocal cords ahead of a big couple of last weeks of racing, and they're off. Immortalization clicked all the way down to 6-5, and that's interesting because as we've talked about many times, that's not computer money in the last 2 minutes in the Saratoga win pool. So I guess people really thought that one was an overlay in this spot. Asked for speed early, but Immortalization ends up clearing rather easily and holds all the cards here as they turn for home in this $35,000 claimer. We'll see if those early exertions tell on him or if he can just keep on going here as they cut the corner and turn for home. Looks like a head full of steam. We'll see if anything gets pulled out for a run and produced. Looks like this horse coming down the center has a little bit of run, the forerunner, but that's a huge long shot, and I think the pick is long gone. So we'll have a nice little exacta if you were smart enough to come up with the 4 for second. I'll just accept 2 chalky winners, but that's better than 2 chalky losers. That's for sure. One thing when I'm picking on TV, especially, that I cannot stand is picking big favorites like that then run poorly. You feel like such a mug in that instance. So fortunately, the line we always say, better is short price than a long face. And here's a man who doesn't like to pick short prices at all. Our friend, the legendary handicapping author. We'll talk about one of his books that's most recently on sale in the interview, but Kinky Handicapping, Value Handicapping, another one of the gems. He was a recent guest on Redboard Rewind and the Players Podcast. He is now back with us for Horseplayers Happy Hour, and we'll get to it right now. Next up on the show, returning guest. Very happy to have our French correspondent joining us. The last time he was on these airwaves, he gave out a very big priced winner that unlocked a very tasty horizontal sequence late on at Saratoga. And while past success is no guarantee of future performance, knowing this man's track record, I'm not betting against him. He is Mark Kramer. Mark, how are things?
It's always fun to be on your program, Peter.
And we should mention, among your many credits, a successful handicapping author, and most recently promoting the re-release of a very informative and fun and literary work called Please Hold All Tickets. Want to let people know if you're interested. Oh, look at that. And he's even got the prop. We love to see that. You can order that one. What's the best place for people to get the book, Mark?
I learned this in the first grade in show and tell. The best place, there's places either a place called Wordbound Media, which is the publisher, or Amazon.
Gotcha. All right. Couple of good options there. Let's look forward before we look back. I am going to have you reflect on the Juddmonte International. Unfortunately, while one of the other Win in Your In races will have run before this airs, it hasn't run as of this writing. So we're not going to talk Yorkshire Oaks. We're not going to talk Nunthorpe. We'll review those later on. We will get your thoughts on Baid and Mishriff and the rest. But first, let's look ahead to the pre-morning Win in Your In action this weekend on Sunday in France. We don't have the final decks, but I know you're a man who does his homework and had a few thoughts you wanted to share. Who should we be looking at for the morning and perhaps beyond for a race at the Breeders' Cup?
I hope all your viewers and listeners will enjoy this pre-morning, even as fans, because the first edition was 1865. So we're talking about a race with history. And just a brief historical background. Last 10 years, UK has won 6 times, Ireland none, France only 1 time, even though the race is in France, and Wesley Ward, USA 3 times. He doesn't have a horse here now. His horses have been basically eliminated, I think, in Ascot. And in the last 22 years, UK 13 wins, Ireland 2 wins, France 4 wins, and the USA back to their 3 with Wesley Ward. So I'm asking American trainers, since you guys are such great sprint preparers, why don't you send some more horses? Why is Wesley the only guy that has the courage to come here? How about it?
There's a lot of money here in the backyard is the truth of the matter. But, I'm all for international participation.
Yeah, well, listen, these are good purses. And jockeys for the past 20 years, Dettori has had 5 wins. Soumillon has 2 wins. And Mosse has 2 wins. So basically, Dettori has won 25% of all these races. That's not bad. So now we can get to some of the horses, actually, because that's what really counts, right?
Indeed. Do we know who Dettori is going to be on from this far out?
No, we do not. We do not, because some horses that he was on were defeated at Ascot, and they're not coming here. So we have to see who will grab him. Articles say that Richard Hannon will bring Persian Force here. Now, Persian Force has 5 races, 3 wins, and 2 seconds. Those 2 seconds were racing against monsters, including a horse that I wish would be here, but he's not going to be. Little Big Bear, who won the race at the Curragh. I think maybe that was a qualifying race for the Breeders' Cup. So, and he was beaten soundly by Little Big Bear, but the trainer says that the horse has a good chance, and he's coming here. 3 wins out of 5 races, can't throw him out. Then we have the horse that won the Norfolk, and this is trained by Fahey. Name of the horse is the Riddler, and he won at 50-1 in the Norfolk. And Fahey won last year's edition with Perfect Power, so he's on a roll. He's 50% in his last 2 weeks, so he looks to be somewhere near the winners. Then we have another horse, really interesting, Royal Scotsman. He won the Richmond Stakes at Goodwood, and he broke the race record of 6 furlongs. Trainer is Cole with 22% in his last 2 weeks, so the trainer is alive. Then we have a couple from Aidan O'Brien, a horse named Blackbeard, 5 wins, 3 seconds, and 1 place on the turf. This horse is sired by No Nay Never, who won this race for Wesley Ward. No Nay Never was really great 2-year-old. We have another O'Brien, which I haven't seen any articles about him, but this horse is 3 for 3, named Meditate. He won the Albany Stakes at Ascot, and it turned out to be a key race. The horse he beat, a Godolphin horse, came back to win next time out in another stakes race. So basically, those are the horses that I think have the best chance if they get in. Some of the best horses could not come. Brad Sell was injured in the Coventry, and so he misses the rest of the year. And like I say, Little Big Bear raced 2 recently, so they've already qualified, I think, for the Breeders' Cup. That's Aidan O'Brien. So O'Brien has a bunch of horses, a bunch of these 2-year-olds. So that's where we're at the moment.
From this far out, do you have one direction you'd be leaning in? Have you looked at any of the future the anti-post markets for the race? Or obviously, we're not going to force you to give a selection when we don't even have a field. But if you had any idea of one to push, I was curious to see if I could get it out of you.
Yeah, well, this is tough. But to me, the horse that looks like he could still have room for improvement if you want to try to beat Aidan O'Brien, because if you play Aidan O'Brien, you got to decide which one. But this Royal Scotsman did break a track record, or at least a race record at the distance of 6 furlongs, and he did it in the Richmond Stakes. So I would say that it's a horse that I think you might get some value on. I think he may not be the favorite. I mean, all the horses that I mentioned are pretty much equal quality.
Look for a price among those potentially. I want to make you, while I have you here, look back to some win in your in action from York, one of the more visually arresting races that I've seen in a while. We saw in the Juddmonte International, which is actually a win in your in race for the Classic, with Baid showing just an absolutely devastating a burst of speed to the lead and staying on like a very, very good thing. After the race, I thought to myself, well, don't they have to try the arc after this? Doesn't he look like a horse that wants to go 12 furlongs? Trainer William Haggis seems to think that they'll go to Champions Day and stay at the 10 panels instead. But how impressive did you think Baid was the other day?
Look, this time Mishriff got out very well and finally has no excuse. Now, I was tempted to actually bet on Mishriff at 5-1. The other horse, undefeated in 9 races going into this race and never had raced the distance, was only racing at a mile. But that horse has looked so good and had the breeding to go the 1.25 miles and even maybe the 1.5 miles too. So I just stayed out of that race, and I'm glad I did, because Baid just Mischief looked like he was running a winning race there, and then Baid just toyed with him. The most impressive performance I've seen all year. Have you heard where he's Champions Day, or where is that? Where he's headed?
Champions Day for Baid, and I think it's much more of an open question with Mishrif. Mishrif, the one who would make sense in a number of Breeders' Cup races, and he's already shown himself to be a successful world traveler. I'm holding out hope we could see a Mishrif appearance at Keeneland this fall.
Well, the race he really looked good, actually. If you realize that the horse he was racing against was the Frankel type of horse, the Monster, Mischief actually ran a great race. And I think the Breeders' Cup Turf is the race that he would do best in.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's had some success on dirt, but, it's a different ball game. He'd look awfully good in a race like the Breeders' Cup Turf. While we also have you, Mark, I wanted to see if we can get an update. I know you do an excellent job tracking a meet like Saratoga, looking at long shot trainers, long shot jockeys, and that was one of the things I think that helped you with that big price winner that unlocked that nice payout when you were on the Late Week show the other week. How are those standings looking at the moment?
Absolutely, and in fact, that big winner was not necessarily even my top choice, because the favorite looked good in that race. But if the favorite is odds on, and the one you have an argument for is 8-1 or whatever, then it's not a hard pick. It's not a hard decision. In any case, one of the stats that I liked on the horse was that he had Saez on him. Long shot jockeys at Saratoga. Now, these are jockeys that have won the most long shots, $12 and up payoffs. Saez is still leading with 9, and I predicted he'd be there as of the second day of the meet. Rosario has 7. Pratt has 7. Franco, who's up and coming, he's really looking great lately, is 6. Castellano, we spoke about, is a flatbed profit jockey. He's got 4. Lescano has shown recent success, so he may be in his groove right now. And Gaffalione also has 4. And then the long shot trainers, I haven't checked how many horses Michael Maker has had compared to how many horses Chad Brown has had. I would guess Chad Brown has had many more horses. Michael Maker is leading the long shot trainer standing with my standings with 5. Chad Brown has 4. Pletcher has 3. Now, can you imagine getting Pletcher on long shots? He's had 3 of them, and all 3 on the turf. And the combination of the day, let's see if it continues, is Weaver with Franco. They've had 3 long shots. So there's a trainer jockey combination of the day.
Love it, Mark. Great stuff. The book is called Please Hold All Tickets. You can find it online. I recommend it very highly. And we're going to have you back on. I love you being our, one of our key European correspondents. So we'll be bothering you again soon.
Yeah, Peter, I just like to throw out a thanks to my second grade teacher, Mrs. Jane, for showing me how to do show and tell. Thanks a lot for having me.
Cheers, my friend. Getting to have Mark on the airwaves, truly one of my favorite handicapping authors. I recommend you check out his work, and I think we'll be having him on again before too long. He was a big fan of Love's Only You. We had him as part of the Monster Pod last year, and we'll see. We have one final guest who's meant to turn up here in the next couple minutes. Hopefully she can make the magic happen, and we'll see. She actually just texted me. She must have gotten the wrong link or something, Craig. Craig, can you send Michelle the correct link? I don't know what's going on there, but she's trying to get in and she's having trouble. So if you can handle that while I speak to the people, it would be a very useful thing. And in terms of what to speak about, why don't you hit us up with questions? I had one question come to me via Twitter about the T-shirt, the old Degenerate Horse Player T-shirt. This is one of our In the Money Media T-shirts, which you can find If you go to inthemoneypodcast.com/old smoke, we've got a whole bunch of them over there. And we recommend you check it out. We've got this one. We've got the I'm Alive in the Pick 5 shirt. We've got, what else do we have there? We have the Chalk Eating Weasel, the underrated Chalk Eating Weasel t-shirt. It's this is so funny. Michelle is just totally in the wrong place. She's saying something about Google Meet. I'm going to just tell you are definitely in the wrong place, Michelle. Stand by. And then Craig, send me a message if you're on this, or else I'll scramble and send her a link, and we'll get her on here. Wow, twice in 8 days. If folks caught the late week show, the technology wrestling I had to do when we were trying to get our man from America's Pastime Stables, Jason Brinkman, on. That didn't go too well either. But this one is going to have a happy ending. I absolutely promise. And yeah, Michelle, one of the most popular guests in the history of Horseplayers Happy Hour, will be making her way on soon. One of the things that we had Jason on to talk about was the barbecue, the TRF barbecue. Now, it's sold out, but if you're in Saratoga and you're dying to come, we may be able to work something out if you reach out to me personally. So yeah, let me know if you're going to be around. And then the other thing about this situation with the barbecue is, even if you can't make it to Saratoga, there are some amazing silent auction items. Now, I don't have them all at the ready off the top of my head, though. Two of them I do remember are experiences with both the Richard Migliore Backstretch Tour, which I've heard more people rave about than basically any other attraction at Saratoga. That's in there. And there's also, I believe, a Watching the Works with Ramon Dominguez, which is extremely exciting as well. Now, I hear the magic sound. I think that means we have Michelle. What's going on?
Hold on. I can't hear. Hold on.
Oh, you don't have me yet. You'll get me soon.
Audio.
I'll just keep talking while she figures out how to make the ear pods work, and we'll get it going. I like the hairstyle.
I can't hear you.
I don't know what to say. It must be a Bluetooth issue. You can't hear me at all? Nothing? No, she's gone. She's gone. Hopefully she'll be back. I don't know what was going on with Michelle's hair, but I kind of liked it. Though that was an unusual appearance for a few seconds in the passenger seat of the car, it was definitely more elegant than her appearance last year when she was literally lying in the gutter at one point at Saratoga. Why she wasn't at the races during the race day, I don't know. But I think I suspect Zoe Cadman might have had something to do with it. And they were near about 6 different dive bars in Saratoga. So I have a feeling they could have ended up there. But anyway, as I was saying about the silent auction and the Ramon, watch a workout with Ramon experience. I mean, you want to talk about a situation where you can't help but learn something. Hanging out with people like Richie and Ramon, I mean, that's as good as it gets. And whether it's me or a TRF volunteer, we're going to allow proxy bidding at this silent auction. So if you're interested in this, holler. You can get in touch with me through Twitter @LoomsBoldly or through the contact page over at inthemoneypodcast.com. There she is. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Excellent.
Some major technical difficulties. You made it very hard for me to come on today.
Oh, it's my fault now, is it?
You send out the links, Pete, or producer Craig.
Randy,
it certainly wasn't me.
I sent the same link to Randy, and he had no problems. I'm just saying. It's possible that there's a user error thing going on here. But that's not important. What's important is that we have you now. Where are you? Where are you driving? What's going on?
I'm in the car. I got the kids. We're actually we're going to the Carlsbad Lagoon.
Awesome. Little swimming.
Oh, we're going on a boat ride. We're going on a boat ride is where we're going.
Even better. I'm trying to book a boat ride for Monday. Hopefully the weather will be okay. How's your Del Mar meet going?
We've had a lot of racing unluck, so not great. I think like 57 trainers have won a race, and we're not one of them. So certainly frustrating, but we've had an okay time. It's been all right.
You've had some run well, that's for sure. But it's always annoying when the luck doesn't go your way. It's such a tough game like that, especially at a meet like Del Mar, where it's so competitive.
I agree. But hopefully things turn around.
There's still time. Actually, you guys have 4 weeks left, don't you? Because you race after
4 weeks.
Labor Day as well. Yeah. So there's plenty of time for the luck to even out and the immense skill of your operation to come to the fore. How about on the broadcasting side? What's been going on there? You've been having fun doing beach balls?
I got the hubs out of the track today.
I love
Yeah,
it.
we've done beach balls. It's been really fun. Billy is winning, but I told him it's like an asterisk because he had to pick Balnikov in the Oceanside because he owned him.
Yeah.
And he won. So like he had to pick that horse. So I'm just gonna say it's like asterisk city there.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when you don't, the luck to skill ratio does not redound to his benefit in that scenario. How about, we had a question just today on Twitter about our Del Mar lifestyle show. Have you come up with anywhere new to add to the list so far? Now, this would be a restaurant, a dive bar, something to do with family. You tell me.
So I actually haven't done a lot, to be honest with you. Today might be the day that I add something because we're going on this little like boat tour thing, right? Ryan actually took Olivia to Legoland and gave it a thumbs down. So
wow, really?
Maybe don't spend the money on Legoland. Okay. Although if you want to, the McDonald's down here are doing a buy an adult and get a child free. So that saves you like $150, right?
Okay, that's good wise guy move.
Where did you eat? Rare Society? Middle of the road for Rare Society. So that wasn't like a 10 of 10
That's the cocktail place right on Cedros.
Yes,
and they also have a steakhouse. The cocktails were good there. I'll say that much. But that's interesting. Not cutting in line to necessarily get the steaks.
And yeah, so I mean, overall, there hasn't been anywhere that we've eaten yet that I have been like, yes, have to go. Let's go back. I need it.
Now, you had texted me about a very specific topic the other day, and if it's a surprise of some kind, I don't want to spoil it in front of the family. Do you know what I'm referring to, and is it something that we can speak about in the car? It was very specific questions about an activity that's done in the San Diego area that I did a video about. Can we talk about that?
No, we can talk about it because it has so it was hot air ballooning. And one of our owners wanted to hot air balloon. So she and I were going to go because Ryan doesn't do heights.
Oh, it's terrifying. If you're afraid of heights, it is terrifying. So are you going to do it?
I don't think Ryan doesn't like heights already. And then just being out in a basket would be like a no-go.
You saw the look on my face. I was white as a sheet. I had the 1,000-yard stare. Meanwhile, Naomi's like handicapping like nothing's wrong. It was very upsetting.
So I don't think we're going to get it done because it takes such a long time frame to do it.
Yeah,
I was hoping it was like right here, like 30 minutes, hour ride. So it's like a 2-hour thing, but it's like a 5-hour excursion.
Yeah, you'd have to punt on a day's racing if you wanted to do it. It is, look, if you have a tolerance of heights, it's fun. And I mean, I have to say, it made me appreciate life so much more when I got down safely on the ground. Like the feeling of relief, the high of still being alive when I touched down was almost worth the stress of the whole experience because it gives you a new appreciation for life.
I mean, you're just going up and down. Like, it's not like you're jumping out of a plane or anything.
No, but you're free. They really can't. One of the things they're good, believe me, but what they don't really tell you is they can't really steer or do anything. They're just relying on their own ability to like know the weather really well and the wind. You're just up there, at the whims of nature. But I really did enjoy it. I mean, in a perverse way, but it made good video anyway. But if you do it, you got to film it. That's all I say.
All right, that's a done deal.
What are you looking forward to this weekend? What's coming up at Del Mar that you're excited about?
We've got the Del Mar Oaks, which I think is a really good race. It's a fully subscribed field of 14, although Rhea Moon, one of the 4, I believe, Diamatos that were entered, did get entered back for an allowance race on Sunday. So she's not going to go. I mean, they haven't announced that yet, but I'm going to go ahead and jump out on a limb there. So I think that race came out amazing. Spenderella came out for it. This will be her first start back since running over at Royal Ascot. We've got, just really top tier horses, top all the way through. It's going to be a super good race. Maybe one of the best 3-year-old fillies on the West Coast is Cairo Memories. She's going to be in there. She's been working really well. So lots to look forward to there. And every single day it seems Baffert unleashes a new maiden.
There have been some good ones. Who have you been the most impressed with from his flotilla?
I mean, certainly I'm not stupid, right? Cave Rock looked really good. I think everyone's talked about Cave Rock, so I'm not reinventing the wheel here with saying that, but he looked really good. And the thing was, to me, sometimes horses look really good because they're not beating a great field. He beat a field full of like horses that everyone thought was going to be like a good horse, right? I mean, he beat Ultimate Gamble, who was Mark Lapp's like $1.25 billion horse. I mean, just like every horse in there, you're like, that was supposed to be a big Del Mar winner. Like all of the guys in that race went to Del Mar thinking we're going to win a race today and then got annihilated.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see. Did you get a chance to clap eyes on that one physically? Do you think there's scope for improvement with Cave Rock?
Yeah. I mean, he definitely looks like he's going to get better as he gets longer and further.
Excellent. We are out of time, Michelle, but we really appreciate you taking time out. We hope that the lagoon is fun and it's something we'll be talking about. Thank you to your awesome family for tolerating me yelling at you for 10 minutes. And we're going to be rooting hard for...
sorry about the technical difficulties. Next time, when I'm outside the Tin and Lint, I'll do better.
We did reference you literally lying. Okay. I mean, your family might not know about this, but you were literally lying in the gutter doing the show at one point.
I promise next week, if you need me, I'll call a race or something, okay?
All right, we'll bring you back to call a race. People are going to be extremely disappointed we didn't get to do that. Michelle and Ryan and the family, thank you so much for letting us borrow her for a minute, and we'll be talking soon. All right, great stuff. I love Michelle. Well, this was a lot of fun. Bit of a shipwreck in all the right ways. Really appreciate you sticking with us on the show. So we'll commence with the thank yous for Michelle and her awesome family, for Matt Bernier, for Mark Kramer, for Randy Moss, for everybody out there, especially those of you who dropped comments in. We really appreciate that. We want to do more of it. We'll do more of it next year. Producer Craig, back from his awesome sounding honeymoon. I want to see more pictures. Sounded really, really fun. Congrats to you and Nicole. Just so happy for you and so happy you got to have such an awesome honeymoon and ring it in properly. Very, very good stuff there as well. Thanks to our friends at the Breeders' Cup. Oh, I meant to shout these guys out. I drank beer today, but I meant to get some of the Day Chaser cocktails, who are the newest sponsor over in Breeders' Cup World. I had some of the tequila soda the other day. It was excellent. I got to get a supply for next week's Horseplayer Happy Hour. That was really, really good stuff. While we're shouting out Breeders' Cup sponsors, Maker's Mark. There's a lot of bottles behind me. There's loads of Maker's Mark in there. Really, really like their stuff as well. That's going to do it. The show has been a production of the Breeders' Cup and In the Money Media. On the Breeders' Cup side, we'll thank Haley and Justin, especially. On our side, our business managers, Drew Coatney, our chief creative officers, Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. May you win all your photos.